Hello and welcome to my 2023-24 Premier League prediction video, and I'm gonna go from champions down because it gets more controversial as it goes down. But we start with Man City at the top. You can't argue against Man City being champions. They're dominant. They've been in pretty much every competition that they've played in since Guardiola became manager. You can't really bet against them when it comes to going for the title again. In Champions League positions, I've put Arsenal, Man United, and Chelsea. Very interesting. I know Arsenal second is pretty much a copy of last season, and I know it isn't very controversial, but I think they've recruited really well this season. Most teams, when they have a good season, they rest on the laurels, and Arsenal saw last season as a failure, maybe. And they've recruited really well. They've reinforced the midfield that I did feel let them down a tiny bit last season. Although they had some quality players, they didn't really have the depth in quality what they have now. So I put them second. With Man United, I think Ten Hag's probably going to revolutionise their attacking side. I think the defence and midfield is pretty much sorted now. But when it comes to their attack, I think they are a bit lackluster. So, with the additions of that Hodgland, and I think sorting out a couple of the players and giving Anthony another 12 months, maybe Sancho can get a bit of form as well. I think they can get third. And in fourth position, I've put Chelsea. I think they really underperformed last season. Everybody forgot how good Chelsea as a squad is. I know it's a meme that they've spent a lot, but they have, and they've recruited well in terms of manager and game Pochettino. I think they'll probably just sneak into that fourth position, but I do think it's possibly going to happen, especially when you've got players like Lukaku. You've got I like the look at that Jackson at the time from Villarreal. So yeah, Chelsea fourth. In the Europa League positions, I've put Liverpool and Brighton and Hove. With Liverpool, I think where Arsenal haven't rested on the laurels and recruited well, trying to go for a title again. I think Liverpool, after winning that title, has basically stagnated as a club. They've brought some decent quality footballers, but they haven't really bedded into the team well. They haven't really recruited well in terms of replacing key players like Ronaldo over years, Henderson this year, Fabinho this year. I think, except from Van Dijk, their defense is very lackluster as well. So I think if Liverpool do get above fifth, it's just because of the individual qualities of Mohamed Salah and a couple of other forwards, personally. Brighton Hove in fifth, outperforming two other sides that positioned above them last season. I put them there because I think they've recruited well. I think De Zerbi's playing the football meta in that I think against teams that are trying to play football, Brighton's just going to walk over them, as they did with my team Wolves last season. I think their anti-press meta is absolutely fantastic, and I just think that they're good enough to go above what they did last season if they can keep hold of the manager, which I don't think they can, to be honest, because I reckon a big team in Europe's going to snap him up by the end of this season, personally. But if they don't, if everything goes well for them, I think they can achieve a sixth place position. In the Conference League position, I put Newcastle. Do really rate Newcastle. Really like their transfers this summer. But I think with Champions League football, it's going to be a tiny bit too much for their squad. I think they have got a very talented squad, but to balance Europe, especially at that high level competition, and the league at the same time, is going to cripple them in terms of being able to play like 50 matches a season if they do well in, like, even if they get knocked out into the Europa League, like, it's going to be a good season for Newcastle supporters because they're finally going to see their team in the Champions League again. But yeah, I just think they're going to falter in the league and finish in the Conference League position, which isn't bad, especially when you go down a one to upper mid-table. I've put Villa next in 8th. I've put Tottenham 9th, West Ham 10th, Burnley 11th, and Brentford 12th. Let's start with Villa. I think Unai Emery is literally their best manager that they've had in my lifetime, like easily. I think they've recruited well this summer. I think that they've just got unlucky with Buendia getting an ACL injury. But I think their way of playing doesn't really necessitate having that prime creative player. I think they're good enough as a unit to actually finish at 8th. And I've put Tottenham 9th. And this is including if Kane stays, to be honest with you. I think Ange Postecoglou is going to get him playing good football, but I just don't think they've recruited well at all. I think their best signing this summer is Maddison, and he's very flaky as a footballer. He'll have 5 or 6 absolutely world-class performances, and then the rest of the season he just goes completely missing. He's a player that's good enough to play for a team like Tottenham, but I just don't think that I rate them that highly because it's essentially like it has been for the last 7 or 8 years or how long it's been. It's like the Kane and Son show, and them guaranteed a goal between both of them against the lower teams. But like when they play against the top 4, top 5, top 7, I think they're going to struggle in terms of getting results, even draws. I think they're a very lightweight team. West Ham, just below them, in 10th. I think West Ham, very, like, they're the par team in the league. I don't think there's going to be any relegation struggles. I do think they might be in like a decent position in terms of Europe. Like with the Europa League, it's very fun, but I think I'm just going to have a solid season. Nothing remarkable in terms of league performance, but I think they have got enough quality within the side, and if they do anything remarkable, it's by sacking David Moyes like a couple of months in, but it will be on him. It be on the sale of Rice and not really recruiting well to back him up. Next, I've put Burnley simply because I think they're probably the team that's going to have that first season in the Premier League where them just going to have like a really nice season. I don't think them good enough to finish above, say, Tottenham upwards. I do think that everybody above like West Ham has got too much quality for their position, but Kompany, it's been said that he plays decent football. I think they've recruited well in the summer for a newly promoted side. I just think there's too much quality above them in terms of league performance. And that comes to 12th in Brentford. I think Brentford are in the same sort of realm as West Ham, but the thing what puts them down 2 league positions is because they have sold their 2 best players from last season in David Raya to Arsenal and Ivan Toney. He wasn't sold, but he's basically he can't play until Christmas anyway, so you might as well have sold him. And another thing, what's going to do Brentford, that's the reason why I put him 12th and not like 11th or 10th, is their tactic of just running the clock down isn't really going to be that prevalent this season with the referee changes. So yeah, Brentford are 12. The next lot, I've put Palace in 13th, Fulham 14th, Everton 15th, Forest 16th, Bournemouth 17th. Let's start with Palace. They have lost Wilfried Zaha, but I don't think it's going to be as big as a loss as people am going to think. I really rate Elise, I really rate Eze, and if them 2 players can keep fit, I reckon they can drag them to like a really respectable finish within the league. 13th for Palace is like, I know it's like basically their average position since promotion, but I think with losing their talisman in Zaha, I think that'll be a really good finish for them. I do see Roy Hodgson not finishing the season with Palace, but I do see them performing really well. Next, Fulham really going to struggle without Mitrovic, obviously, but their style of football is just completely fine. There's nothing risky about it. They're going to do anything stupid, really. I think the only concern that I've got about them is Marco Silva's got a knack of taking over a side, and after 2 years of being in charge, in terms of defending against set pieces, just goes down the nick. So that's the only concern. But them strong and set pieces on attacking, so I don't see what the problem is with defending. But that's a minor concern for Marco Silva's style of football. But I think Fulham are just going to be solid this season. Nothing really fancy, but yeah. Next, Everton. This down, Fulham down, are like the ones that are in trouble really for me. Everton, they've recruited all were okay this season compared to like a couple of teams further down. Sean Dyche is a relegation specialist. he doesn't really get down with teams. I know he went down with Burnley, but I think with Everton, they have got a basis of a decent team. It's just that he needed that first 6 months to weed out some of the players he didn't really want, and I really see him struggling, but not really going to be flirting with relegation. But I do think they're going to be definitely down there. Forest next. These two could easily be in the relegation spots beneath, but Forest, they haven't really had the nicest of pre-seasons, and our pre-season is just about gaining fitness and everything. But with the second season syndrome, with some of the players there kind of in like the mix of about 20-30 players, I can see him struggling, but I do think that they've got a tiny bit of quality within the side. And then, lastly, before we get into the relegation spots, I'm putting Bournemouth to be 17th, and this is simply because the teams below them, they've got massive problems, and Bournemouth seem to be just lacking in quality in terms of squad to do really anything more than this. I think the manager choice, to be fair, is a bit suspect. I don't really anticipate the manager doing anything massive with the squad, but I do see that they might have enough quality to stay up. And in the relegation three, as you might have deduced, I have put Wolves in 18th, Luton in 19th, and Sheffield Wednesday in 20th. Firstly, my team, Wolves, in 18th. This is due to just current day feeling within the side. I do think we have got quite a few talented footballers. We got players that are good enough to play for some of these teams up in this area, the league table that I've predicted. But I think with the signing of Gary O'Neill, with the lack of signings in general, with the outgoings, with the general negative feeling within the team, within the supporter base, it's just got that same funk that we did in 2012. Really, I can see some of the players like Cunha, like Sarabia, like Nunes, like Fabio Silva, like Semedo, some others. I can really see them like hopping shit before the season's ended. Really, very uninspirational from the board, and I know it's that the chickens have come to roost over the certain amount of transfer windows, but I just feel like the board the Borders sort of let themselves down over the last like 3-4 years since we lost that match to Sevilla. I think it's been an absolute mismanagement of a football team. Really, we haven't really kicked on and improved the side in any capacity. We've sort of got more technically gifted footballers, but there isn't that same fight that we had in the first 2 seasons in the Premier League nor the Championship winning season. In 19th, I put one of my favourite teams in the league, Luton. Although I really like them as a club, I really like their recruitment strategy in that they kind of know that they're already down, but them recruiting for next season in the Championship, I really rate that. Ross Barkley is an absolutely quality acquisition on a fair transfer as well. I really like the wing back that they signed from us, Giles. I think he's going to be the support package from them this season. But I just think they aren't going to be able to stay up because they just lack quality in terms of players. They'll probably they'll probably shock a few with some of the games, but I don't think they've got enough quality to stay up. But I think they have got the fight to stay up. That's why I've put them above the last team, Sheffield United, 20th. I think after selling your 2 best players, not being able to renew the loans of the other 2 best players in Tommy Doyle and McEntee, I think Sheffield United are like a dead team walking, really. I just don't see that where like 38 points are going to come from to keep them up. I don't really see them picking up 30 points, to be honest with you, but yeah, that was my Premier League predictions, and I'll see you at the end of the season to see how good my predictions was. But anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and goodbye.